Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. You know this tower. You've seen it on postcards, on movie screens, and on a million travel blogs. It's the undisputed symbol of Paris, the very heart of romance and artistry. But what if I told you that this global icon was never meant to last? That it was called a gigantic black factory smokestack by the most famous artists of its day? And that its very existence is tied to a brutal and little-known secret from France's colonial past? Today, we're not just going to talk about the Eiffel Tower. We're going to dive into its untold story, a tale of audacious ambition, fierce public outrage, and a last-minute scramble to survive. We'll explore the crazy rival designs, like the colossal guillotine that almost won the competition. We'll uncover the secret scientific missions that saved it from demolition. And we'll confront the difficult history that links this monument of French liberty to a staggering debt imposed on the world's first Black Republic. This isn't the story they tell in history books. This is the real, gritty, and utterly fascinating journey of how a despised iron skeleton became an eternal legend. You're not going to want to miss this. Let's go. The zenith of an epoch, the Eiffel Tower's ascent from engineering marvel to global icon. Introduction. A city reimagined. The Paris of the 1880s was a city in dynamic transition, a confluence of revolutionary fervor and burgeoning industrial might. With the new Third Republic Constitution adopted in 1875, France entered a period of political stability that fueled an emphasis on public education, railroad expansion, and technological advancement. This era, later dubbed the Bonne Belle Époque, was defined by a profound and sometimes jarring duality. On one hand, it was a time of immense scientific and industrial progress, with new technologies reshaping factories and changing the conditions of labor. On the other, it was a period of lavish opulence and social stratification, where a new aristocracy of financiers and entrepreneurs occupied grand residences in the city's most affluent districts, while the working class was increasingly pushed to the periphery. Paris became a global hub of luxury and fashion, with renowned houses like Worth and Cartier defining a new standard of haute couture and fine goods. This environment of innovation and national rejuvenation provided the perfect stage for the Exposition Universelle of 1889. Conceived as a monumental celebration of the centennial of the French Revolution, the World's Fair was designed to showcase modern achievements in art, architecture, and technology. Drawing over 32 million visitors from May to October, the event was a grand national statement reflecting France's desire to reassert its cultural and industrial supremacy on the world stage. The exposition was a sprawling landscape of architectural marvels and technological displays, including the magnificent Palais des Machines, a testament to the advancements of the industrial age. Yet the central symbol of this grand event, and arguably its most enduring legacy, was not met with universal acclaim. The Eiffel Tower was intended to be the centerpiece, a physical embodiment of progress and a technological triumph. However, its story is far from a simple chronicle of success. The tower emerged from a maelstrom of societal tensions, becoming a lightning rod that ignited a profound cultural debate about the soul of Paris itself. This colossal structure, a testament to modernity, was simultaneously decried as a barbaric blot on the city's storied landscape, a harbinger of a future that many feared would erase Paris's past. Its complex origin and controversial journey reveal a more nuanced narrative than the triumphant legend often told, a story that encapsulates the profound paradoxes of an entire epoch. The crucible of competition, genesis of an icon. In 1886, to find a suitable centerpiece for the upcoming exposition, a grand competition was launched in Paris. The mandate was both specific and audacious. Participants were tasked with studying the possibility of erecting on the Champ de Mars a 300-meter tower with a 125-square-meter square base. This height, a staggering 986 feet, was not a random number. It was a symbolic figure, intended to break all previous architectural records and establish a new benchmark for human ingenuity and French engineering prowess. The competition attracted over 100 entries, many of which ranged from the serious to the spectacularly absurd. While Gustave Eiffel's design ultimately prevailed, the proposals submitted for consideration provide a fascinating glimpse into the fin de siècle imagination. Alongside the winning concept, alternative visions included a colossal lighthouse, an enormous sprinkler, and most bizarrely, a gigantic guillotine. These eccentric ideas served as a curious backdrop, revealing a radical and sometimes darkly symbolic undercurrent to the era's creativity. The very existence of a proposal for a gigantic guillotine is a macabre but significant detail. While the exposition was meant to celebrate the French Revolution's centennial as a triumph of liberty and the new republic, the guillotine design hints at a lingering, perhaps unacknowledged, tension about the more violent aspects of that history. The eventual selection of the tower, a symbol of industrial progress and light, over this monument to brutal justice, can be interpreted as a deliberate statement, a turn toward a future of republican innovation rather than revolutionary violence. The common narrative that credits Gustave Eiffel as the sole creator of the tower oversimplifies a complex and collaborative genesis. The winning design was, in fact, a synthesis of distinct and vital contributions from four key figures. The initial concept and preliminary sketches were created by Maurice Couchelin and Émile Nouguier, two senior engineers working for Eiffel's company, Compagnie des Établissements Eiffel. Their design, sketched in May 1884, was described as a great pylon consisting of four lattice girders standing apart at the base and coming together at the top. This structural approach was a bold extension of the company's existing expertise in building bridge supports, scaled up to an unprecedented height. While Eiffel initially showed little enthusiasm for the engineer's concept, he did authorize further study. To make the purely engineering-driven design more palatable to the public and the competition's jury, the two engineers brought in Stephen Sauvestre, the head of the company's architectural department. Sauvestre played a crucial role, transforming the raw technical sketches into a structure that also appealed to artistic sensibilities. He added the tower's iconic decorative arches at the base, a glass pavilion on the first level, a bulb-shaped design for the top, and other ornamental features that softened its purely industrial aesthetic. Finally, Gustave Eiffel himself assumed the role of the visionary and public face of the project. Though he was not the primary designer of the concept, he was its leader, its chief financier, and its most vocal defender. He registered the patent for the tower in his name and personally put up a significant portion of the capital, a testament to his unwavering belief in the project's viability and his own financial acumen. The successful realization of the tower was thus dependent on a dynamic fusion of pure engineering, architectural artistry, and entrepreneurial vision. Sauvestre's contributions were not mere embellishments. They were a pragmatic necessity, a bridge between technical possibility and public taste, which attempted to address and preempt the cultural outrage that would soon erupt. A colossus of discontent, the artist's lament. As the Eiffel Tower's construction commenced on January 26, 1887, it became the focal point of a significant cultural clash. The new era of industrialism, championed by Eiffel, stood in violent opposition to the old guard of writers, painters, and architects who viewed Paris as a timeless monument of stone and grace. The outrage found its most famous and passionate expression in a letter of protest published on the front page of the newspaper, Le Temps, on February 14, 1887. This missive, titled Artists Against the Eiffel Tower, was a profound condemnation of the project, signed by nearly 50 of the most prominent cultural figures of the Belle Époque. Among the signatories were the celebrated novelist Alexandre Dumas Fils, the poet Sully Prudhomme, the architect of the opulent Paris Opera House Charles Garnier, and the famed writer Guy de Maupassant. The letter was addressed to Adolphe Alphand, the director of public works, and its language was a powerful lament for a city they felt was on the verge of being irreparably deformed and dishonored. The artist described the tower as useless and monstrous, comparing it to a gigantic and black factory smokestack. Their argument was not merely aesthetic, it was an ideological and existential one. They envisioned the barbaric mass of the tower crushing the city's revered monuments, Notre Dame, the Louvre, the Arc de Triomphe, and argued that this modern disgrace was something that even commercial America herself wouldn't want. This critique was a cutting indictment of industrial progress and a rejection of what they perceived as crude, unbridled commercialism and a profound lack of taste. The artists lamented the unscathed beauty of Paris and protested in the name of misunderstood French taste. Their fear was that the Paris of sublime Gothic cathedrals and grand classical architecture would be replaced by the Paris of a machine builder. The letter concluded with a dire warning that the hateful shadow of the hateful column of bolted sheet metal would lay over the city for the next 20 years. Gustave Eiffel, the project's most visible defender, responded to these criticisms with a calm and intellectual retort. He compared his tower to the ancient pyramids of Egypt, arguing that his creation would be the tallest edifice ever erected by man, and that engineering was an art form in its own right, one that was just as capable of producing beauty as the traditional arts. He defended his project not only on its technical merits, but also on its artistic principles. The debate was a microcosm of a broader societal shift, the struggle for cultural dominance between traditional art and a new technologically driven form of expression. The artist's reference to the tower as a blot of ink and a factory smokestack reveals a deep-seated anxiety about the return of industry to the city center, a perceived threat to the romantic, cultured identity that had long defined Paris. An iron symphony, building a modern wonder. The construction of the Eiffel Tower was a monumental feat of engineering that took just over 2 years. From the groundbreaking on January 26, 1887, to the final rivet being driven on March 31, 1889. This rapid construction was made possible by a number of innovative techniques, most notably the use of prefabrication and precision. Over 18,000 individual iron parts were meticulously designed and manufactured in Eiffel's factory on the outskirts of Paris. Each piece was painstakingly measured to an accuracy of 1/10 of a millimeter and pre-assembled before being transported to the site. This modular jigsaw puzzle approach allowed for an incredible degree of precision and efficiency, setting a precedent for the construction of modern skyscrapers. The assembly process was a symphony of labor, with a total of 2.5 million rivets holding the structure together. Riveting was a specialized task that required the coordinated effort of 4-person teams. One worker to heat the rivet, a second to hold it in place, a third to shape the head, and a fourth to hammer it home. The project also employed a host of revolutionary techniques that were far ahead of their time. For the foundations on the side of the Seine River, 16 watertight pneumatic metal caissons were used, allowing builders to work below the water level with compressed air to protect against flooding. To align the first-floor girders with staggering precision, builders used sandboxes that allowed them to adjust the massive components to within a millimeter. Steam cranes, mounted inside the tower's pillars, were ingeniously designed to creep and climb as the structure grew, an innovative solution for hoisting materials to great heights. The human story behind this mechanical marvel is one of both struggle and remarkable foresight. The 132 workmen, often called acrobats for their dangerous work at height, faced long and difficult days, sometimes working 12 hours or more in harsh conditions. The demanding nature of their labor and the low wages led to 2 strikes. The first strike in September 1888 was a response to the precariousness of their work and their low hourly rate, which was about 5 cents an hour. Gustave Eiffel responded by agreeing to raise salaries. However, less than 2 months later, the workmen went on strike again, demanding even better remuneration. This time, Eiffel refused to raise wages further, but promised a 100-franc bonus to every worker at the end of the project, a promise that resolved the dispute. The use of pressurized caissons for the foundations also led to an unforeseen medical crisis. Workers developed a mysterious illness that caused tingling sensations, bleeding, difficulty breathing, and partial paralysis. This ailment, now known as the Benz, or caisson disease, was caused by the rapid change in pressure when workers returned to the surface. At the time, no one understood the cause or the importance of slow decompression stops. The project's leaders even had to arrange for the Minister of Commerce and Industry to descend into the caisson to prove it was not a death trap and to avoid construction delays. Despite these inherent risks and the scale of the project, the Eiffel Tower had a remarkably low fatality rate for its time. Only 1 worker died. This achievement was a direct result of Gustave Eiffel's progressive approach to worker safety, which was revolutionary for the era. He mandated the use of safety nets, guardrails, and, most importantly, safety harnesses, which were not a common practice at the time. He also recognized the importance of worker well-being, providing regular breaks, meals, and above-average pay, all of which helped to maintain focus and physical strength on such a demanding project. The story of the tower's construction is a dual account of human ingenuity and human cost. The low fatality rate is a powerful testament to Eiffel's progressive management, which stands in stark contrast to the common safety record of the era. However, the labor strikes and the emergence of the Benz illness reveal that despite his efforts, the project was still a product of its time's social tensions and medical limitations. The human element, with its struggles and sacrifices, is a crucial, often overlooked layer that complicates the celebratory narrative. The unseen foundations, a nuanced legacy. While the Eiffel Tower's technical and artistic battles are well documented, a more complex and often unacknowledged aspect of its history concerns its financial underpinnings. The funding for the colossal project was a complex and risky venture. The contract with the French government granted Eiffel a sum of 1.5 million francs toward the construction costs, which was less than a quarter of the estimated 6.5 million franc total. To secure the project, Eiffel agreed to finance the remaining costs himself, in exchange for a concession that granted him all income from the tower for 20 years. A key part of the financial backing for this ambitious undertaking came from the Crédit Industriel et Commercial, a prominent French bank. A 2022 investigation by the New York Times brought to light a deeply controversial and difficult to reconcile link between the tower's financing and the debt imposed on Haiti. The story of this debt begins decades earlier, in 1825, when France forcibly imposed a treaty on the newly independent republics of Haiti. As compensation for the French Revolution's loss of their valuable colony, France demanded an exorbitant indemnity of 150 million francs to be paid to former slave owners. This immense sum was several times Haiti's annual revenue and an impossible burden for the young nation to bear. To make the required payments, Haiti was coerced into taking out predatory loans from French banks, including the CIC, which profited immensely from the arrangement. This created a double debt that took Haiti over a century to repay, crippling its economy and preventing its development. The New York Times report concluded that this Haitian wealth was systematically siphoned into French coffers and used to help finance various domestic projects, including the construction of the Eiffel Tower. This revelation adds a profound and challenging layer to the tower's legacy. The Eiffel Tower was built as a monument to the centennial of the French Revolution, a celebration of liberty and the new republic. Yet a portion of its funding was rooted in a financial mechanism designed to punish the world's first independent black republic for its own successful revolution and its abolition of slavery. The existence of this link creates a stark paradox. The very symbol of French freedom and industrial progress is inextricably linked to the systematic exploitation and financial suppression of a former colony. This difficult history fundamentally challenges the simplistic, triumphalist narrative of the Tower's origins, requiring a more critical and nuanced understanding of its place in history, from temporary exhibit to enduring beacon. For all its grand ambition, the Eiffel Tower was initially intended to be a temporary structure. Like most of the pavilions built for the Exposition Universelle, it was granted a 20-year concession and was slated for demolition in 1909. Its survival was not assured by a sudden shift in popular opinion about its aesthetic qualities, but by its utility. From the very beginning, Gustave Eiffel understood the need to prove the tower's worth beyond its role as an exhibition centerpiece. He actively championed its scientific utility, installing a personal office at the very top and transforming the structure into an open-air laboratory for various experiments. He conducted meteorological studies, made astronomical observations, and installed instruments such as barometers and anemometers. He even fixed a giant Foucault pendulum under the second floor to demonstrate the Earth's rotation. This dedication to a scientific vocation was the tower's first and most critical line of defense against demolition. The tower's permanence was ultimately secured by a new technology, radio communication. Its immense height made it an ideal antenna for military signals, a fact that proved indispensable in the early 20th century. A wireless station had been installed on the tower in 1908, and during the First World War, this station became a vital national asset. The French military, under the command of Commandant Cartier, used the Eiffel Tower's radio station and other tall aerial masts to listen in on German radio transmissions, a system sophisticated enough to pick up signals from even relatively small transmitters in Germany. This electronic intelligence provided the French High Command with a complete organizational chart of the German armies and up-to-the-minute tactical intelligence as early as 1915. During the crucial First Battle of the Marne, the tower's transmitter was used to jam German radio communications, contributing directly to their defeat. The story of the tower's salvation is a powerful case study in the relationship between form and function. It was initially reviled for its industrial form, a function-first design that was considered an aesthetic blight. It was saved, not because its critics had a change of heart about its beauty, but because that very form, its immense height and metal structure, made it uniquely suited for a new vital function: military communication. This transition from a temporary cultural statement to an indispensable national asset is the final, pragmatic, and non-romantic chapter of its story, proving its worth in a way that mere aesthetics could not. Conclusion: the tower's enduring dialogue. The Eiffel Tower stands today not as a monolithic symbol of French triumph, but as a complex and contradictory monument to its own creation. It is a testament to engineering genius and architectural innovation, but it is also a silent witness to the profound artistic and cultural schisms of its time. The narrative of its construction is as much about the artistic polemics against it and the labor strikes of its workers as it is about the visionary genius of its designers and the revolutionary spirit of its engineers. The recent revelations regarding its financial ties to the Haitian indemnity add a crucial layer of historical complexity, challenging the simplistic narrative that portrays the tower as a pure emblem of liberty. It forces a more critical examination of how the fruits of industrial and cultural progress in the West were, in some cases, inextricably linked to the systematic exploitation and debt of former colonies. Ultimately, the Eiffel Tower's legacy is not a fixed historical fact, but a continuing dialogue. It is a monument that encapsulates the paradoxical nature of its time, an emblem of French freedom built, in part, on the foundations of a colonial debt. Its survival was secured not by art, but by the pragmatic demands of science and war. The Eiffel Tower remains a silent yet powerful chronicler of a history that is still being discovered and debated, transcending its physical form to become a powerful and multi-layered cultural icon. So, there you have it. The Eiffel Tower, a monument born from a feverish era of change, a battlefield of art versus engineering, and a project that almost died before it ever truly lived. It was ridiculed by the cultural elite, saved by science, and ultimately proved its worth not as a piece of art, but as a strategic asset. And perhaps the most powerful part of its story is this: it stands as a testament to the complexities of history. It's not just a symbol of French liberty and progress. It's also a silent reminder of a painful past, of a debt imposed on a newly freed nation. The same structure that celebrates human ingenuity also carries the weight of a colonial burden. The next time you see it, don't just see a postcard or a photo op. See the colossal monument of contradictions it truly is. A bold vision, a fierce debate, a battle for survival, and an enduring symbol of a history that is far more complicated and far more fascinating than we ever knew. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and write your opinion in the comments, and of course, like it.